With the ASHWASTES quickly on the horizon, I wanted to talk about another gang that was present in the old ASHWASTES campaign. I'm talking, of course, about Shanty Town Gangs. Shanty Town Gangs were people who were basically exiles but did not have the environmental protection maybe that nomads had, or the attunement as shamans did, ASHWASTES shamans. Shanty towns tend to be people who are living in this horrible environment that basically are just trying to survive. They have a special rule, or had a special rule, with weak constitution. So basically they were taken out of action each year.
You could have knocked me over with a feather.
Out of action each year on a 5 rather than a 6+ in the old rules. They were very similar in some ways to scabbies. They were these people who were really down on the chain of, well, the environment and everybody's thoughts. They were the type of people that maybe a redemptionist convoy would turn up to and teach them that their suffering is good because of the emperor and all this stuff. But they had access to quite decent stuff. Shanty heavies, which were basically their form of a scaly analogy, were just basically big guys, big humans, and I'm going to be very on point here. Shanty towns were made, and gangs were made specifically to use the vehicle rules that were just basically copy and pasted from another game called Gorkamorka. They were decent enough vehicle rules, and we have to see what the vehicle rules are going to be like in the future, but I won't be covering those vehicle rules here. I can do if people are interested, but it would mean me going into Gorkamorka and then saying how they apply those Gorkamorka rules to a Necromunda setting.
You will ride eternal, shiny and chrome.
Unfortunately, Shanty heavies are still suffering from their weak constitution. Even though they might be a bit stronger than everybody else, they are still affected by the environment as much as everyone else. These are not people that were born here. They're people maybe who've been exiled, or maybe a couple of generations have been exiled. They are not exactly evil, but they're not exactly good either. A lot of the time when you were playing this campaign, they would be seen as like the neutral settlements that maybe you would interact with if you were going from hive to hive. They might be way stations, or they might be set up by various gangs by members who were, let's say, not exactly on the top of the chain. Maybe they did something naughty, and so they were sent out to create these way stations. But Shanty gangs were basically had no house rules, and they had their own listing. They had their own territory table as well. This territory table, which I've put on the screen right now, is a bit okay. It's very copied and pasted by the territory table that was in the Outlanders book, but we're given a fresh coat of themology and themes and window dressing. Basically, you have things like your shanty ruins, your sludge seas, your shanties, your storm shelters, your gambling dens, so your standard stuff that you'd find in Necromunda, but out in the West. The weapons and special skills that you could get were fairly okay. They were fairly standard. You could get heavy plasmas with these guys, so they're not bad, but considering you could be taken out of action easier, and you probably suffered from a bit of a toughness issue later on, especially if you would be hit by the various terrain and the environmental rules that were in the ASHWASTES. You could have people with like toughness 2 who could be taken down in a single round, even though they might be heavy. So they were a gang that was very flavourful, and in a lot of ways that's good and that's bad. But when you're playing this game, you obviously went in with certain expectations, and you went in with certain things that you knew that you wanted to play. If you were playing ASHWASTES Nomads, you were playing these raiders who are raiding convoys. If you're playing Shanty Town Gangs, you're playing these people who are surviving in this horrible environment. That might be associated very loosely with the game, but not necessarily. they had stealth as their main component, as their main skill list. Will they have that in the future? Probably not. They probably would get their own special skill set, as well as ASHWASTES nomads probably will get their own special skill set. Maybe riding if they've got lots of beasts, or maybe some sort of like raiding skill or something like that. Or something very similar to the muties in Gorkamore, because they had like a special skill set where you could like use your mounts and you could ride onto people's vehicles and cause a lot of carnage. So these are just me remembering bits and pieces from those old games, and maybe they will bring it further into the new one. Okay, so let's move on a little bit and talk about the coin that appeared. Now, with everything going on, everything is delayed, and we've only seen a very blurry image and a very motion comic of the forthcoming thing, but we don't really see what the ASHWASTES nomads look like. We only see some Orlok caravan guards, and we don't see much. And if there is going to be anything, I don't think there will be anything. Now, I think if something's going to drop, it will either drop in April or May, simply because everything is delayed. But there are a few other gangs that I can go through, and environments and stuff and bits and pieces from Necromunda and from the ASHWASTES before that hits. But yeah, I just thought they were an interesting thing to cover, simply because, will they come back? I don't know. We don't know with this game really, because I'm just going to go on a slight tangent for here now. So if you just want to listen about the ASHWASTES, that's ending now. But there's this tangent where I'll go on about like the Scabbies, and then I'll end it. So you won't be missing much. So if you want to leave now, that's fine. Thank you all for watching, and you know, please subscribe. But if you are carrying on, it's Scabby time. Right, so the Scabbies were this group of people that were lived in the really depths of the Underhive. They lived in basically sludge and muck, and they were the outcasts of the outcasts of the outcasts. This is probably one of those games that I felt with a lot, because, well, let's put it on the cards there. Now, you feel alienated, and when you're alienated from alienated people, you know, you get this weird, you get this like, no, you feel like I'm a mutant, they're mutants, so we'll band together kind of thing. That's the basic thing I was trying to put across. But the Scabbies have not appeared. Even the token nods that we got in a few books early on have now been removed. They don't know what to do with them. I'm a bit annoyed in some respects that the ASHWASTES is before Outlanders, and we've only got, what, one gang? Kinda, maybe, if you think about it, that are half of the Cawdor. Yes, this is me going on about that situation again. But it needs to be said that when they introduced the Scabbies as spook farmers, and then just removed that from the Delac part of the when they got their own book or codex or whatever, House of Shadow, yeah. When they got that, they were just removed from it. But it's a bit annoying, and I really miss the Scabbies. I think they're one of the best gangs out there, simply because of the stuff that you could do with them. You had these Scalies who were like these part reptilian people who are highly intelligent, yet sided with these outcast people who often used like boxes or pots filled with like toxic goo and various other bits and pieces, and plague zombies and zombie dogs, or scabby dogs, and what else did we have? We had lots of weird, crazy things in Scabby gangs. You could eat people as well, so there was some cannibalism in that, so maybe that's the reason why we won't get them back. But I think if they stop, or they just remove them, the same with the Ratskins, I think they'll be missing out on something that was there from the very beginning. They were even in Confrontation, Scabbies were, so that's how old they were. So they were in the precursor to Necromunda. So ASHWASTES, Shanty Town Gangs does take a lot from them, but they're more human. That's my conclusion for all that. But yeah, I want Scabbies to return, so please, maybe. And I'd like Ratskins to return, but how they would do Scabbies, and Ratskins really depends on who's at the helm and what they decide. I think Andy at some point had said they might return, but he hasn't really given any more information. He was more interested in the ASHWASTES and the Brat Gang with the Eye of Saloon, so we might get the Eye of Saloon first, or maybe we'll get the Eye of Saloon with some Scabbies versus Brat Gang, which would be very, very flavourful for confrontation. So if they did that, that would be an interesting dynamic, because you'd have the really people on the high end of the spectrum with the people on the really low end of the spectrum, and you have all these people with the flashy guns and weapons with these people with very improvised weaponry from the depths of the depths of the depths. I think that would be very apt, but we'll see what things go and how things go. So I've been Trix, everyone, and you've been all of you, and that's just been my little talking about the ASHWASTES, Shanty Town Gangs, and a little bit of other bits and pieces as well. Remember that things are going to massively change in this from the old ones. So what we will see is we might see names, and we might see some themes carry over, but maybe not everything. So do take care of yourselves, and bye bye.